I think your discussion of how to deal with criticism is very described. Well, essentially, we join the discussion. Hello, ChatGPT. Hello, ChatGPT.
Hey there. Great to have you here. What can I help you with today?
Okay, to the nice discussion topic, how to deal with criticism and use it for self. In this regard, my first question, what is criticism and why do people give it?
Ooh, that's a great topic. So, to kick it off, we can say that criticism is basically a judgment or an evaluation. Sometimes it's constructive, sometimes it's more negative. People give criticism for all sorts of reasons to help others improve, to express personal preferences, or sometimes just to vent. What do you think? Does that sound like a good starting point?
And the second question, why what is
Yeah,
difference what is difference between constructive and destructive criticism?
Great follow up. So, constructive criticism is aimed at helping you improve. It's specific, actionable, and focuses on behavior or work, not your character. Destructive criticism, on the other hand, is more hurtful. It's vague, personal, and often just meant to tear someone down. So, the intention and the impact really differ.
Okay, third question, why do many people find criticism difficult to accept?
Yeah, that's a big one. I think a lot of times it's because criticism can feel like a personal attack, even if it's not intended that way. There's also an emotional response, like a blow to our self esteem. Plus, if it's unexpected or vague, it's even harder to process. It's really a mix of our own pride and how we interpret that feedback.
The next question, how can criticism help us grow as individuals?
Oh, that's a great angle. So, when we approach criticism with an open mind, it actually gives us a chance to see blind spots we might miss. It pushes us to refine our skills, think differently, and build resilience. So, even though it can be tough, it's a huge tool for personal development.
Next question, what emotions do people commonly feel when criticized?
Yeah, definitely. I think a common reaction is defensiveness, like we immediately want to justify ourselves. People can also feel anxious or even shut down if they take it really personally. And sometimes people just bury the feedback and don't engage at all. So it really depends on how it's delivered and the person's mindset.
Why is it important to stay calm when receiving criticism?
Yeah, staying calm is crucial because it helps you stay open and actually process the feedback. When you react emotionally, it's easy to miss the useful parts or shut down a conversation that could help you grow. So staying calm keeps you in a place where you can reflect, ask clarifying questions, and actually make progress.
Why is it important to stay calm when receiving criticism? And how can we tell if criticism is meant to help you?
Yeah, exactly. Staying calm just keeps you grounded so you can really focus on the message rather than the emotions. And to tell if it's constructive, you can look for specifics, like does the person offer examples, practical suggestions, or a genuine intent to help you improve? If it's vague or just meant to tear you down, that's a red flag.
Okay, what are some signs of unfair criticism?
That's a good one. So, an unhelpful or unproductive criticism often comes across as just a personal attack, or it's completely vague with no examples. It might be dismissive, overly harsh, or even just reactive without any real insight. And that kind of criticism can really hurt more than help.
Can you explain how can self-confidence affect the way we handle criticism?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we receive unhelpful or harsh criticism, especially if we're already dealing with self doubt, it can really knock our confidence. We might start questioning our abilities or feel like we're not good enough. So it's really important to balance criticism with self compassion and remind ourselves that one bad critique doesn't define our worth.
Okay, Why should we avoid taking every criticism personally?
Exactly. It's really about separating yourself from the feedback. Just because someone critiques a piece of your work doesn't mean it says anything about who you are as a person. So if we keep that perspective, we can bounce back stronger and keep growing.
Okay, how can active listening improve your response to criticism?
Absolutely, yeah. So active listening is key because it lets you fully understand the critique before reacting. Really focusing on the words, asking clarifying questions, and making sure you're interpreting the intent. When you listen carefully, you not only get clearer feedback, but you also signal that you're engaged, which often diffuses tension.
Okay, why is it important to ask questions for clarification?
Of course, clarification is really important because it ensures you don't misunderstand the intent. You can ask things like, could you give me an example of what you mean? Or what specific part can I improve? This way, you make sure you're addressing the right issue, and it also shows that you're committed to learning and growing.
What role does humanity play in accepting feedback?
Yeah, self awareness is huge. When you understand your own strengths and weaknesses, you're less likely to take feedback as a personal attack. You can see it as a tool for growth rather than a verdict on your worth. And that self awareness also lets you choose which feedback is really valuable for you to act on.
How can criticism reveal our blind spots?
Yeah, that's a really powerful aspect. When we get feedback, especially if it's something we didn't expect, it can shine a light on areas we overlooked. Maybe a skill we've been avoiding or a mindset we didn't realize we had. So, in that sense, criticism can be a mirror helping us see where we have room to grow.
Why should we separate the message from messenger?
Oh, absolutely. That's really key. The value of the message is separate from who delivers it. So, even if it stings or comes from someone we don't fully agree with, we can still focus on what's being said, look for truth in it, and use it to refine ourselves without getting caught up in personality.
Okay, how can criticism help us become better leaders?
Yeah, definitely. When we learn to handle criticism well, it shows we're adaptable and open to growth, both crucial leadership traits. It also models humility for others. When a leader takes feedback constructively, it creates a culture where everyone feels safe to improve and innovate.
What are some unhealthy ways people react to criticism?
Yeah, there are a few common unhealthy reactions. Some people might get defensive or even aggressive, while others might just withdraw and avoid future feedback altogether. And sometimes people might ruminate on it too long, letting it damage their confidence. So, recognizing these patterns is really key to breaking them.
How can defensive behavior make criticism harder to learn from?
Yeah, exactly. When we get defensive, we put up a wall and it blocks us from really hearing what's being said. Instead of seeing it as a chance to grow, we get stuck in just justifying ourselves. So, staying open and curious really makes a big difference in being able to actually learn.
Okay, why is it important to reflect before responding?
Yeah, that's a great point. Taking a moment to pause before you respond, just to breathe and process, can help you respond more thoughtfully. It also keeps you from reacting too emotionally, so you have a better chance of actually engaging with the feedback in a productive way.
How can journaling help you process criticism?
Of course. Yeah, exactly. So processing criticism means giving yourself that space to reflect. You can think about what's valid, what's useful, and where you might need to grow without just reacting on the spot. And once you've processed it, you can respond from a more centered place.
What should you do if criticism is inaccurate?
Yeah, that's really important to discern. If the criticism is based on misunderstandings or incorrect information, you can calmly point that out. Stick to facts, give examples, and clarify your side. When it's done respectfully, it keeps the conversation productive and balanced.
How can criticism improve academic performance?
Oh, for sure. When taken constructively, criticism can highlight gaps in understanding or areas we need to work on so we can focus on them. It pushes us to refine our thinking, improve our skills, and ultimately perform better in our academic work because we're not just going with assumptions, we're growing through feedback.
How can athletes benefit from criticism?
Oh, absolutely. Criticism helps us identify blind spots, sharpen our skills, and build resilience. It pushes us to go beyond surface level understanding and really reach a deeper mastery of what we're doing. So when we engage with it, it's a huge catalyst for improvement and growth.
How can criticism improve workplace performance?
Yeah, exactly. So by staying open to criticism, we turn those challenging moments into real opportunities, both to refine our abilities and to become more confident in our ability to handle future challenges.
Okay. What role does emotional intelligence play in handling criticism?
Of course, if you ever want me to offer some feedback on something specific or just explore how you're growing, I'm here for that. Just let me know what you need and we can navigate it together.
Okay. How can criticism help build resilience?
You're welcome. I'm really glad we could walk through this. If anything else comes up or you just want to discuss more, I'm right here.
My question is, how can criticism help build resilience?
Ooh, that's a great question. So, when we face criticism and we stay open to it, we learn not to crumble in the face of setbacks. Over time, that builds resilience because we start to see challenges as opportunities. And we trust that we can handle them. Even if the feedback stings, we know we can bounce back and keep going.
Why is feedback essential for personal development?
Exactly. Criticism is kind of like a mirror for personal development. It helps us identify where we can improve, and every time we work through it, we become more self aware, more adaptable, and ultimately more confident in ourselves and our goals.
How can criticism help improve decision making?
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. So, when we get thoughtful feedback, it helps us step back and consider different perspectives. Instead of just relying on gut reactions, we can weigh the feedback, think critically, and make better informed, more balanced decisions moving forward.
Okay, what are the benefits of semi-regular feedback?
Yeah, exactly. When we take criticism in stride, we develop a more balanced, humble perspective. We become less impulsive, more reflective, and we start to trust ourselves to act based on deeper insight, which really strengthens our personal and professional decisions.
How can criticism help improve relationships?
Yeah, that's a great point. When we handle criticism well, it shows others that we're open, willing to listen and grow. That builds trust and respect. And when we respond with curiosity rather than defensiveness, it opens up better communication, which strengthens those connections over time.
In your opinion, why should we avoid dwelling on negative comments?
Yeah, that's really important. If we dwell too much on negative criticism, it can drag us down or make us overly self critical. So it's about acknowledging the feedback, learning from it, but then consciously shifting focus toward what's productive and positive so we keep balance and momentum.
Okay, how can positive self-talk help after receiving criticism?
Oh, absolutely. Positive self talk is a game changer because it keeps us grounded and reminds us that one critique doesn't define us. By reframing the feedback as a chance to grow, we stay motivated, resilient, and we can keep moving forward.
What is the difference between criticism and bullying?
Ah, good question. So, criticism is generally a judgment or evaluation, often pointing out flaws or areas for improvement. Feedback, on the other hand, is broader. It can be positive or negative, and it's a more neutral exchange of information, meant to help understand our performance and adjust, not just judge.
And bullying,
Yeah, exactly. And that's part of what makes feedback so valuable. It's a tool for learning and growth, not just a critique. So when we seek feedback, we're really inviting others to help us see the bigger picture and become better, while criticism alone might just leave us feeling stuck.
okay, how should you respond to criticism on social media?
That's a tricky one. I think the key is to stay calm and measured. If it's constructive, you can acknowledge it, maybe thank them for the feedback and clarify if needed. But if it's just harsh or personal, it's often better to disengage, set boundaries, and not let it stick.
Okay. How can criticism help improve creativity?
Oh, definitely. When we get outside perspectives, it can push us to see things differently or try new approaches. It challenges us to break out of our comfort zones, experiment, and refine ideas. So, in that way, it really fuels creative breakthroughs.
Why is it important to focus on solutions rather than blame?
Oh, absolutely. Exactly. When we focus on solutions, we keep moving forward. It keeps us proactive, and it helps us learn from criticism without getting stuck in blame or negativity. That's how we really grow and get better.
Okay. And next question, how can mentors provide valuable criticism?
Yeah, that's a great point. Mentors provide valuable criticism when they combine honesty with experience. They know your potential, so they tailor their feedback to guide you forward, not just point out flaws. And because they care about your growth, it's easier to trust and apply their insights.
Okay. What can we learn from successful people about handling criticism?
Yeah, that's a great tip. So, successful people tend to view criticism as a tool, not a threat. They stay curious, they look for lessons, and they don't take it personally. By doing that, they continuously adapt, improve, and stay on track toward their goals.
How can criticism strengthen problem-solving skills?
Absolutely. When we get criticism, it often highlights gaps in our approach, and that pushes us to rethink, experiment, and come up with new solutions. So, in that sense, each piece of feedback is like a mini puzzle, helping us refine how we tackle problems in the future.
Why should we think people for constructive feedback?
Yeah, that's a really good mindset. When we see feedback as constructive, we view it as a chance to collaborate on solutions. It keeps us open, curious, and engaged, so we end up growing, not just defending ourselves.
Okay, how can criticism help identify weakness?
Yeah, exactly. Criticism can be a spotlight on patterns we hadn't noticed. Maybe we keep making the same mistake or avoiding certain tasks. Once we see those gaps, we can consciously address them, which helps us build better habits and stronger skills.
Okay, how can you turn criticism into an action plan?
Exactly. Once you get that feedback, you can identify specific steps to take, like practicing a skill, adjusting your approach, or setting a goal. Then you put that plan into action. So criticism isn't just a sting, it's a roadmap for improvement.
What are some examples of criticism leading to success?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, think about writers who get feedback on their drafts. They might get told their pacing is off, so they revise and end up with a bestseller. Or in sports, an athlete might be told their technique needs work, and once they adjust, they break their personal record.
Okay, how can criticism improve teamwork?
Exactly. And the key is that those individuals didn't just stop at the criticism. They used it as fuel, took action, and kept refining their approach. That persistence paired with critique is what really drives them towards success.
Okay, the next question. Why is patience important when dealing with criticism?
Yeah, great question. Patience is crucial because it gives you time to process the feedback without reacting impulsively. It lets you reflect, understand the bigger picture, and respond in a way that's more thoughtful and productive. So it really keeps you grounded in the process.
How can criticism encourage lifelong learning?
Absolutely. Criticism keeps us in a growth mindset. When we see it as a chance to learn, we stay curious, adaptable, and open to new skills or perspectives. So every piece of feedback becomes a stepping stone, fueling continuous improvement throughout life.
What role does self-awareness play in using criticism effectively?
Yeah, self awareness is really at the heart of it. When we know our strengths and weaknesses, we can filter the criticism more effectively. Instead of feeling crushed, we recognize what's relevant, use it to fine tune our approach, and we stay grounded in who we are.
How can criticism motivate positive change?
Oh, definitely. When we see that criticism is pointing us towards something we can improve, it sparks a drive to take action. Instead of staying stuck, we get energized to make those changes, set new goals, and prove to ourselves that we can grow. So it really can fuel positive transformation.
ओके ये था आज का हमारा डिस्कशन टॉपिक। उम्मीद है कि आप लोगों ने कुछ सीखा होगा। इंशाल्लाह हाजिर होंगे डिस्कशन टॉपिक के साथ। तब तक इजाज़त दीजिए। अल्लाह।